Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Life in Motion. I'm your host, Grace Becker. I'm a licensed therapist. And as of a day ago, 2 days ago, full active license in Minnesota. Yay! I'm so excited. I was applying to work in Minnesota to be a therapist in Minnesota, but there was just a delay. There was some miscommunication between me and the board, and so it was delayed, but not anymore, thank God, and I'm licensed in North Dakota and Minnesota. So if you have any friends or family who could use therapy in either of those states, and I don't know them, send them my way. But yeah, I'm so excited to have everyone back today for another episode of Life in Motion. I usually try and have a little bit of small talk before every episode before we get into the topic. And I don't really have anything too crazy to talk about. I have been just filling my time with reading. I have been reading Haunting Adeline. I don't know if any of you have read that. Oh my God, it's smut. What else other than smut? It is so good. It gripped me by the throat and has not let go of me since. So I've been really loving that book. And yeah, I've been still packing, moving at the end of June, still working on that. Things have just they've been going pretty well. They've been chill. The weather has been a lot nicer here. And in my room, it honestly is really, really hot because we don't have, people don't come for me. I don't know what it's called. We don't have the air conditioning that's all around. It's just in the one room. It's like a box unit. So my room gets really warm, especially because it's on the top floor and heat rises, So it's kind of warm in here, but we're going to make it through. I don't know why I'm wearing a full lounge set, so don't worry about it. I know it doesn't make any sense because I said I was warm. We're going to ignore it and we're going to move on. But other than just some of those day-to-day things, I've been doing really well. And I'm happy about the nice weather that we've been having because summer and fall are probably my two favorite seasons. And I can just tell that my mood has been boosted. When the weather's nice, I am able to wear like tank tops and skirts and dresses and be outside during my lunch break at work. And the sunshine and the warm weather, it feels so good. And my serotonin is boosted and life is bliss. So I'm very excited for this summer and all that is yet to come. But I hope you all are also having a really nice Thursday and that you enjoy the rest of your week, your work week, whatever it is you do for work, and that you have a really wonderful weekend. I know that I'm excited for the weekend. Needs much needed rest coming up, Speaking of rest, and actually the opposite of it, today we're going to be talking about hustle culture. And one thing that I have caught myself and other people doing is glorifying being busy and to wear the consistent working and productivity as a badge of honor when really sometimes rest is needed, right? Kind of working past your limits. And even when you're needing rest, still pushing through to get to where you want to be productive, to get your output. And so I was like, why do we do this? And I also talked a little bit about hustle culture in one of the previous episodes. I think it was the distorted thinking episode. And I just really connected to that topic, and I think that it would be a good thing to get into more. So getting into this, let's talk about the background of hustle culture. And I found an article that I will put, all of my articles are going to be in the show notes down below, but they just had some really great information. So some of these things that I'm saying are direct quotes. And in one article called When the Hustle Isn't Enough, written by Isabella Rosario, I'm really sorry if I mispronounced that last name, Rosario. But Isabella wrote an article, and she wrote that according to the Oxford English Dictionary, hustle comes from the Dutch word husselen, meaning to shake or toss. And over time, the word expanded, meaning to hurry or to obtain by begging. And by the late 19th and early 20th century, hustle started being used to mean gumption and hard work. A 1914 job from the Chicago Defender, an African-American newspaper, said delivering the newspaper was an easy task for any wide-awake boy with a little hustle in him. And a year later, the paper profited from little Arthur White, a 12-year-old newsie who was encouraged to hustle and work in early age. So this, history behind the rise of hustle culture has been around for a long, long time. And the meaning has developed as time has gone on. And so this is going back, talking about what the Oxford English Dictionary describes it as and where it comes from. But even it gets into, the late 19th, early 20th century and how the meaning behind it started. So at first it was meaning gumption or to work really hard, right? And it even is talking about how kids, 12-year-old boys, were encouraged to hustle, right? To work hard at an early age to get money to provide. And around the same time, hustle also referred to illegal activities such as sex work, stealing, and common scams like pyramid scams or just any money scams, anything like that. And in a 1894 article from the Los Angeles Times recounted how a young woman was sex trafficked and told that she must hustle for herself. And in a 1935 article from the Baltimore Afro-American said that by promising a non-existent scholarship, the University of Maryland president was admitting that he was giving away the applicant a hustle. So, and this time it almost is kind of like sex workers would have to hustle for themselves, right? Do what they have to get done to be able to provide for themselves. And then at the same time, just used a different way, they were talking about how they hustled an applicant, which means to kind of fool them, right? To psych them out, right? And in other publications, hustle or lack thereof was invoked to make an association between blackness and laziness. And this is all from that same article, by the way. And they said that the average colored man does not know how to hustle. That was a Timothy Thomas Fortune who wrote for the Southwestern Christian Advocate, a Methodist African-American newspaper in 1888. And so throughout the 20th century, hustle was used to describe the reality of what many poor Black people had to do to make ends meet. And in his 1965 autobiography, Malcolm X wrote, quote, "Everyone in Harlem needed some kind of hustle to survive," end quote. Whether that meant illegal gambling, selling drugs, or flipping stolen merchandise. And by the early 2000s, many rappers began to use hustle in their lyrics to make an example of this rise and grind mentality. So the one thing that has been pretty consistent throughout most of history, obviously with the exception of a few things, is that it is to rise and grind, maybe pull something over on someone. But the common theme for sure is not to rest, is to do what you have to do to take care of you, to take care of what you got to do. And today, in our world, hustle is just another buzzword in addition to many, many phrases. So here are some that you may have heard of. 1, sleep is for the weak. Or 2, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Girl boss, or hashtag girl bossing, if you've ever heard that. Boss up, chase the bag, millionaire mindset, productivity over everything, and excuses don't get results. So these are just a few of many things that you may have heard of throughout your lifetime. And there are so many things that are contributing to this mindset. One is the work that you do, right? Another one is the home you grew up in, the people you surround yourself with, your culture, the environment that you're in, and the economy, personal factors like your own finances or your career, and of course, social media. Social media is a big one in like provoking this hustle culture mentality, right? Because it's so easily accessible. It's at the touch of your fingertips. It is in a little, like, I have mine. It's in like this little electronic box that you carry with you everywhere. And platforms like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, like all the platforms are filled with highlight reels and startup wins and 4 a.m. routines and brand deals and side hustles and so many different things that people are doing to be that girl or that person, right? And when we see all of this, this can create a very distorted view of what success really looks like. And it's building this idea around that always being busy or always building, always achieving is the goal. And that's what you need to do in order to be worthy or to be considered successful. And people often showcase the outcomes of things like wealth, freedom, fame, without burnout or struggle, right? They highlight those parts of their life where they are winning, where they are doing the most, where they are hustling. So it's no wonder where we get this distorted view from social media. It's because people are portraying this small part of their lives. And I'm sure like many people who upload on social media would also agree with this, is that those are highlight reels, that there's more than what we see on the screen. So it's not to judge them in any way. It's more so to bring an understanding and acceptance that, yeah, hey, like, that's not reality. That's not what real life is like. But this consistent exposure to other people's achievements foster toxic comparison. So even leisure is turned into productivity, such as like productive morning routines or how to turn your rest into return on investment, right? Like, those moments of our life where we usually have that built-in rest of like the morning when you wake up and you make your bed and you take it slow, maybe you shower, make your breakfast, when those things are being viewed as rest versus when you go on social media, and sometimes it can create this toxic comparison of, okay, if I'm not doing exactly that, if I'm not waking up at 5 a.m., making my bed, getting in that gym, then I'm a waste of space, or I'm not hustling like I should be, right? And it creates the sense that you are falling behind if you're not consistently working on something. If you're not consistently producing, it can create that fear of falling behind. So then this brings me to my next category or point I want to make, and that is on the psychology behind hustle culture. So I pulled from another article, and this one is from a Psychology Today article by Brian Robinson. And in this, he wrote, quote, "Anybody can be driven by the hustle culture. You're not really cool, charming, or unique. It's easy to work on autopilot. Anybody can do it. But when your well-being is at stake, you want to make rise and shine a priority over rise and grind. The difficult and more rewarding part is to find that place inside where you're drawn," end quote. So I really, really love this so much. Even the simple fact of like taking rise and grind and turning it to rise and shine. But I really love how it was talking about the more difficult part and more rewarding part is to find that place inside of you where you're drawn. Because so many people are conditioned to equate their value with their output, and they put their value based in that. However, what really is where you should find your value at is within that place inside of you where you're drawn, right? And you can figure that out by asking yourself, what's important to me? What are my values? What are my passions? What are things that I prioritize that bring meaning to my life? And it can be more than one thing. It can be your family, it can be your friends, it can be your hobbies, your work that you do. It could be so many things. And knowing that you can get to those things without consistently overworking yourself. The more you do, achieve, or accomplish, the more valid or worthy you feel. And that's what society has conditioned us to do. And this creates a very performance-based identity, the hustle culture. Hustle culture creates this performance-based identity where rest feels like a failure, where rest feels more like a reward than something that's just necessary for humans. And something that I think is also very interesting, which was coined by therapist and writer Devon Price, is that this idea that we evaluate ourselves through our economic output. I think that is especially interesting. If you remember when I was talking more about the beforehand of like what kind of creates this hustle culture for people, and one of the things I said was personal things like finance, right? And this therapist and writer was talking about how we tend to equate ourselves through our economic output. So we say, okay, if I make this amount of money or if I produce this much, then that means I'm worth this much. But that's not the case at all. Like, you're priceless, babe. You're absolutely priceless, okay? Nothing that you own or that the money that you have equates to your deservingness to be on this planet or equates to your worth, right? Because you can be the most shitty human on this planet and be wealthy as fuck. You know what? But your self-worth might be low, even though your bag is high, right? And it can also be the opposite. You could be like poor and scrambling to make ends meet, but still be like the most high value person where you value yourself and you have highest self-esteem and worth in your own value. So phrases like I should be doing more are signs of this internalized hustle culture, right? Like I should be doing more, or I should do this, or I really need to be doing that. And it causes what I like to call the cousin of FOMO, the fear of missing out. It causes FOFB, which stands for the fear of falling behind. And this fear drives people to constantly hustle out of anxiety that they'll be outpaced or irrelevant. And I think, honestly, like hot take, people are so afraid in this day and age to be irrelevant. Because to be irrelevant would mean that maybe you're not worth as much or that people don't care as much. But honestly, like, screw relevance. Like, some of the people that I know, like, are just like, they do what they gotta do for themselves that align with their goals and their priorities. And they are some of the most relevant people that I know, not because they're relevant with society's standards, but they're relevant with their own values. Like, they don't live according to what society has placed on them or what they see on social media. They live according to their own lives, which I think is the most relevant and paced thing that anybody could do. But social media magnifies this, right? They say that everyone else is underachieving. If you're not achieving, you're underachieving. If you're not consistently producing, then you are a failure or you're not worthy. And hustle culture pushes people towards things like chronic stress, emotional exhaustion, detachment, and it absolutely is the foundation for burnout. And yet, burnout is so often minimized or glamorized as the price of ambition. If you're not tired, you're not doing enough. You may have heard that one a time or two. And staying busy can be a defense mechanism too, right? It is a way to avoid uncomfortable emotions, stillness, or existential questions. It creates an illusion of forward momentum, even if you are internally depleted, right? It is absolutely true to say that sometimes we push ourselves so much. We pour from an empty cup, even though we are completely depleted. We have nothing left to give, and yet we put this pressure on ourselves, or we feel this pressure from other sources in our life to consistently be producing and giving this output, to be rising and grinding and hustling, right? So really kind of taking a step back and looking into, why do we even buy into this hustle culture? Like, all these things I'm describing, I'm sure some of you might be shaking your head like, yeah, honestly, like, that's kind of true. But I mean, we do it for a reason, right? Like, we obviously get something out of it. We obviously benefit something from this. Otherwise, we probably would have stopped a long time ago. So why do we buy into hustle culture? One, well, rest takes courage because it goes against everything hustle culture conditions us to believe. Reclaiming rest often means confronting who you are without constant doing. So one benefit is that sometimes we get to avoid, sometimes we get to put off figuring out who we really are and what our values are, right? We don't have to do that personal reflection if we stay busy, if we stay hustling, right? So it takes courage to just stop for a minute and reflect and process and do what's right for you and to take that rest. I think the reason that we buy into hustle culture is also because we want more for ourselves. We want more for ourselves. We want more for our family and our lives. We want to not just be able to live comfortably, but thriving if possible. Thriving, of course, looks different for everyone. Some people it's traveling. For some people it's having a nice home with a pool. For some people it's being able to pay off debt and live a financially free life. And where hustle culture needs to take a fucking step back is when we push ourselves to extremes or start comparing ourselves to others, like how social media can sometimes contribute to. We are human, and we are all unique in one way or another, and some do have to work very hard to get to their ideal state of thriving, whereas some are born into this privilege that affords them more opportunities to get to their ideal state of thriving, if that makes sense, right? So I'm not saying all of this to just say, like, you don't need to work hard for what you want. No, like you still need to work hard and stay consistent if you have goals you want to reach, right? However, you don't want to push yourself so far that you end up off the deep end of the cliff or taking a bigger bite than you can really chew, because that will cause you to burn out, regress in progress, and it does impact your mental, physical, and emotional state. Knowing that, how do we even break free from this? How do we balance positive, productive work while also avoiding this hustle mindset and avoiding burnout? Well, I'm going to go back to that one Psychology Today article by Brian Robinson. And they said, quote, "There are 1,440 minutes in one day. 5 daily minutes in which you still your busy mind and center on the quiet places inside sets the compass of your heart so you can be more drawn, even in times of upheaval. And science shows it's worth it. When you're drawn, your heart rate slows down. Muscles loosen, your mind is calm, open, and clear. Decisions and actions are reflective, even, and balanced. You have better sleep, increased immunity, lower blood pressure, improved digestion, and a sense of well-being. Studies also show that a slower and calmer approach to job tasks results in more productivity, a higher quality product, and greater success in the long run." Holy fucking shit. Okay, sorry, end quote, and then holy fucking shit. I absolutely love this. There are so many benefits from just calming yourself and taking your time. We don't have to rush. Life goes by fast already, right? There's no reason to pressure ourselves to work harder, to work faster, to do more, right? Like, babe, you are doing enough. You are enough as you are, and you are doing enough. So I love how he broke it down into, like, there's different benefits, right? There's mindful benefits, right? For your mind, it makes you more calm, more open and clear, right? So that way you can process decisions and proceed more mindfully. It helps you in your actions, so you're more reflective, even in balance, rather than reactive, right? There's physical benefits. You get better sleep, increased immunity, lower blood pressure, improved digestion. All these things sound fucking amazing. It even helps your emotions too, right? Like when you just slow down and you take a minute to calm yourself and to rest, you're going to feel more calm, more relaxed, more even. And then in turn, when you are going about in the world, your work is going to benefit from it. The relationships that you have are going to benefit from it. And you as an individual are going to benefit from it. All of this really starts with challenging the mindset and the irrational thoughts that rest is necessary. It's not a reward, right? Rest is necessary. It is not a reward. You don't have to do something to earn rest. You just earn it because you earn it. You're a human and you earn it. And there are a few things that I would encourage you to try out if this is something that you are really interested in. And one is journaling. So I have some journal prompts for you if you are interested in this. One question to reflect on is, what does success mean to me now? And another question is to ask yourself, what am I afraid will happen if I slow down? What am I afraid of that will happen if I slow down? Once you have those thoughts, you can really start to reflect, okay, like, holy shit, like, what does that mean to me? Because maybe society or social media has told you it should be this, but really that doesn't align with your life or your values. Maybe it's something completely different. And then the question of what am I afraid will happen if I slow down? I like how it invokes people to bring out what they're afraid of, because fear is a huge motivator. It motivates us to do something or to not do something. So if we can figure out what we're afraid of, then we can challenge that and stop putting so much pressure on ourselves to always be hustling and to always be rising and grinding. You know what I'm saying? Also, something to do is to replace hustle goals with sustainable vision goals, right? So no more setting unrealistic expectations for ourselves. Let's actually get really realistic with our timeline, with the outcome, with how we're going to do it, and what we need, right? Let's set more realistic goals for ourselves. One of my favorite ways to do that is with SMART goals. If you know, you know. If you don't, look it up. SMART goals. Okay? Very, very helpful. Some other practical tools that you can try. One is time blocking for joy. So setting aside specific time in a week, in a day, whenever you want to do something that you really like. Whether it is to read or to take a walk or to, I don't know, just sit and exist for a minute. Like whatever it is you want to do, you can set aside time for your joy to do whatever you want that is going to be meaningful and help you be sustained. Another thing to do is to do one thing at a time, right? Like we're human and you actually can't multitask, right? Your brain just divides its attention up between tasks. So just take it slow, do one thing at a time, set little baby steps for yourself because you don't want to regress by taking too big of a leap. And the last one is simply saying no. If someone invites you out for dinner or drinks or for a weekend to do whatever, and you don't want to, you can say no. You can. You absolutely can. If what you really need is you just need to get some laundry done and get some other tasks done, and all these people that you know are going out doing something fun for the weekend, you can say no. Focus on yourself, focus on your priorities, because you are going to feel much better. You're going to gain more by giving yourself the rest that you need versus if you burn yourself out doing something that you really didn't want to do in the first place, and then you've just kind of like buried yourself deeper for the week ahead, right? So say no more often. So I have something I would like for you all to try. So this coming week, I encourage all of you listeners to pick one way to reclaim time this week. Whether that's doing the time blocking for joy, whether it's doing one thing at a time, saying no, deleting a task that you originally were going to do, something that you can do guilt-free and to reconnect with yourself and to have some fucking fun. Yeah. For all we know, we have just this one life. So let's have some fun with it, right? Like, do something for yourself this week and you have permission to do it guilt-free because I said so. But yeah, that's really what I have for this week's episode on hustle culture. This is something that I can go on tangents for forever. And I would honestly really love to get a guest on, so maybe like expand on this topic and related topics. I don't want to beat the same horse to death over and over again, but I also just think this is really fascinating. Maybe get some personal stories in there. So let me know your thoughts and if you like this type of content. I know I've been doing more and more solo episodes. I have really been loving doing the solo episodes. I love that we can just sometimes live in our little bubble and it feels like I can chat with all of you. But I am hoping to line up some guests for future episodes. If there is someone or something in particular you would like me to find a guest to talk with about, please let me know. You can email me at life.motion24@gmail.com. You can follow me on my Instagram, DM me there at life.in.motion24. And my TikTok is life_in_motion24. But yeah, that's really what I have for you all this week. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a review, leave 5 stars, share with people in your life. But yeah, shout out to my editor, Ben. Thank you so much for all that you do in editing these podcasts for me and for the listeners. And you can listen to this and watch it on YouTube, Spotify. You can catch us on Apple Podcasts and wherever you get your podcast streaming from. Until next week, embrace the chaos and find the beauty. Bye!